probably become 1.5 kids, you know. But until this helps me like force myself to stay on track at least a little bit. What did I say? I don't think we looked at your week. Y'all are gonna have homework due on Wednesday. Sorry, it's the exercises for chapter 23. They're gonna be hard, and if you don't take the notes that we're gonna take in the next 15 minutes, then I don't even know what's gonna happen to you. Let's see. And then okay, we're just like doing practice because chapter 23 it's like kind of hard. So we're just gonna do a lot of spot translations this week, and then you can take a vocab quiz on Friday, and next Friday you can take a translation quiz on 23. Then we'll move on to chapter 23 with 4, which is this thing called ablative absolutes and passive periphrastics. I love this part of the textbook, guys. And then I'm gonna adjust this once I find out. It sounds like there's no CMAS for anyone. That's so weird. Or like no one's taking it.
Yeah, you have to sign up to take it. My mom's like, you know what? I don't want to sign up for anything. So.
I thought it affected our like funding almost, like because y'all did really good on it the first year, but apparently it doesn't do that. So I went over this sentence, second period, kids. Make sure you understand these. Ignore number 2. Ablative manner doesn't matter, but means, time, when, and separation are still important.
Like that's how you like you said, like that's how you get your funding. Because like we have to take a test so they know that they're actually teaching us something.
Yeah. No, CMAS is like lame, and it's weird to like take out a whole week to do this. Like standardized tests are awful. But
it's kind of funny how they like kept changing the name and then they finally settled on CMAS.
Oh, did
Like,
they?
it used to be park test.
Weird.
Yeah, it used to be Park. It was like 2015. It was Park, and then before that it was like TCAP.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we took a thing called a LEAP test, and that was called the Iowa test. That was like from I don't know. I think it was just like an acronym. But anyway, I only liked them because we found out that you guys, whoever was like here the first year, everyone did really good, like compared to all the other schools in the district and like surrounding districts, that y'all did really good. So it's a way to measure yourself against other schools. But if y'all are gonna opt out, I guess NWEA can kind of help us do that too a little bit. Anyway, participles are when you take a verb and you make it an adjective or a noun. Okay, and y'all seen this chart before. I think this is confusing because I have a form. I'm not going to talk over Keaton this whole time. I don't care, dog. And tell your little sister not to talk over my class either because it's awful. All right, so we have the actual form of the word in the top part, and then it's like the ingredients for the word. Like I'm telling you how I actually derived at that form. But it's these 4 different types of participles. Okay, they're really not that bad. You'll hopefully sense pretty quickly that they're very useful, that there's like a reason for us to get these participles. And so we have this first one, it's the present active participle. It's probably just going to feel like a verb to you. Like you're probably like, why is this like a different thing than just a present tense verb? It's because, again, it's going to be doing more of like an adjective-y kind of thing. So you take a verb. All of these are from Agua Agra, the examples that I actually have here, but sometimes those don't work for my example that I'm doing at the bottom. So kuro kurura, what does kuro kurura mean, anyone? To run, yeah. It's kind of a hard one that we got probably kind of recently. We get the word current from it, like a current moving through like a stream or something, kind of running along. You take that word and this is apparently the present stem. What does that even mean? That's the second principal part of the verb. So like kuro kurura, you take that second principal part, you chop off I guess you chop off the R and the E, just like you do when you like form regular present active negative verbs. And then you add this NS, NTIS ending. I'll show you what all of them look like in a second, because that's just the nominative version and the genitive version. And then at that point, you have formed a present active participle. And so what would currens weir as tortoise mean, anyone? Something about the man is brave, but the currens beard. What would that, oh, well, okay. So we're going to translate this as just verbing, okay? So what kind of man is this? Anyone? The running man, right? The running man is brave. Yeah. Because in this context, running, it might sound like in a vacuum, you hear the word running, you're like, oh, that's a verb. You probably initially think like that's a verb. But here, it's actually describing the man. So it's functioning as an adjective. And this is what makes it a participle, that it's this like adjectival verb, or should I say it's a verbal adjective? I think I should say it's a verbal adjective. And you're probably wondering, what the heck are this NS and TIS ending? These are basically just third declension endings. Here, man is like nominative, so he needs his participle buddy to be in the nominative as well. But it can technically be in any case it needs to be. And I know some of y'all are like a little rusty on the third declension, but these are just third declension endings. The thing that's actually going to indicate this, though, that should hopefully, like, if you train your brain to look for this in the ending part to tell you that you're looking at a present active participle, it's going to be the NS in the nominative or NT in all the other forms. So think of this NT as the same NT that we find in the word present, because this is the only present tense participle we have. We have one present tense participle, one perfect tense participle, and then two future ones that are very rare and very weird. But you mostly need to get really comfortable with the present active participle and the perfect passive one, which we'll talk about next. Any questions? Does anybody know why they didn't, when I was like, what was Kern going to be here? Did y'all just not know what Kuro Kuro meant? Why did y'all not answer that? All right, well, hopefully I'll address it. But yes, present active participle. You take that second principal part. You don't need to think of it that way. But apparently, you take the second principal part. That's what they mean by present stem. And you stick on this NS in TIS ending. And it will translate to verbing. So I'll give you all a bunch of examples. But like whatever the verb is, just add the ing. But don't expect it to be like the man is verbing. It's going to be more like the verbing noun is doing something else, and then it's going to have it like another verb be the actual verb part of the sentence. All right, y'all totally get that, right? I can like sense that y'all actually got that. Like I did a really good job explaining the present active this stuff. And then again, there's all the forms. Now, perfect passive. What's that going to be all about? This is more just like when you translate a verb, it's just like verbed. So this wouldn't really work for something like run. Like the run down person maybe, but for this verb that we actually have, that we're basing all the examples off of, either to drive or to do or to lead. Octus, which I'll explain how to actually form that, would be like having been done, and you don't actually, or just done. You don't actually need the having been part in it. So it's almost like just turning the verb immediately into an adjective. So it's just like the verbed form of the whatever the verb is. And so apparently we take the fourth principal part. That's what it tells us down here. Participle stem. By participle stem, they mean the fourth principal part. And then we just add on whatever ending we need. So in this example I have down here, I'm giving it a U in ending. This is from, well, what do y'all think datum is from, anyone? What verb is datum from? It's like kind of hard. It's actually kind of hard. Yeah, it's from dodare. So let's actually look at that real quick to see what that actually looks like. But so I'm taking, so it's like dodare, daddy, datum, give. So I take that fourth principal part, and in this instance, if I'm modifying donum, which means gift, it's neutered, I just keep it neutered. We usually put this fourth principal part, so we just give them a neuter ending, as opposed to like elsewhere, other dictionaries, you might see like octus, octa, octum, but that's very long-winded, so usually be able to stick it in the neuter. And then it's a fourth principal part. Anyway, we take it fourth principal part and just like using it wholesale as it shows up in the verb dictionary entry, it becomes basically an adjective. And I don't know how to like simplify it more than that. It's just like with the present active one, it feels a little more verby, like the running man or the giving person. It feels almost like a straight up adjective. So for dodare, it'd be like, well, you guys tell me. You love amo amare datum donum? Anyone? This one's a weird example. You love the what? The gift that has been. Anyone? If datum is from dodare. It's not the giving gift. That would be like dawns. Is that right? Yeah, they would be like dawns. Dawns. donum. It's anyone? Yeah, the gift, like, or just the given gift, even. So that's why I should put having been here in parentheses. Because sometimes you put having been, but you usually almost like always don't actually need it. So it's just like verbed, basically. We don't say gaved. You know, it's not actually an ed ending for a verb like to give. But yeah, you're just like for agra, it's literally just done. The thing that is done. And like if you feel like you want helping verbs in there, you could say you loved the gift that has been given. But you don't need to. You really don't need to. So there might be like 1 out of 10 scenarios you do maybe want these helping verbs, but you're usually just turning it into this like past tense version of the verb, and it's functioning as an adjective. I'm looking at these slides. I'm seeing some issues visually, legibility wise. I'm gonna go back to the workshop and see if I can explain these in a slightly more legible way. But I mean, that's the gist of it. We have a future active one. They're very rare, and you basically translate these as about to verb. And the indicator for future active is this UR that you're seeing in the middle part of the word. Because just like perfect passive participles, which you can think of as having like way too many P's, perfect passive participles, these the ones that we just talked about, these future active participles, they take the fourth principal part and then they add in this weird ending UR, US, or UR, A, or UR, UM, depending on what the gender or what the case needs to be. So in this example at the bottom, it'd be like the Greek sailors about to see, this story might not look like it's from Video, about to see Polyphemus are afraid. So it's describing them. So it gets the long I ending to like modify the sailors, and the UR is a part of it that makes us know that it's future active. But that's pretty difficult. Future passive is the one that will only show up once. And this is where we have an ND showing up, and it means like about to be verb. So whereas future active is like about to actively verb, future passive, because it needs to be passive, is about to be verbed. And we go back to using the second principal part and adding this weird NDUS or A or UM, whatever it needs to be, ending to make it a future passive participle. Both of these future tense participles are not going to be showing up too much. We might focus on them more next week. I mostly want you guys to feel comfortable with present active when an NS or an NT is showing up, and it just means verbing, or a future passive when you take that fourth principal part and you basically just make it an adjective. Do y'all remember, let's see, real quick, that Dokeo Dokeiri? Does anybody else have a cool spring break story? Dokeo Dokeiri. Dokui, I taught, first person singular perfect tense, doctum. Okay, so doctum there. This is the verb that means to teach, you know. But like we also got the adjective doctus which means what, anyone? No? No? Taught or learned. Okay. And I think like that second one, that's an adjective. But I think like looking at these next to each other, it demonstrates that this perfect passive participle form of a verb, sometimes they exist, they're so common that they get their own dictionary entry and they become their own separate adjective. But I mean, like you can see that it's just coming from the fourth principal part of this verb. So anytime you need a verb to become an adjective, basically you just grab that fourth principal part, and that is like technically your perfect passive participle. But I don't know if like every ancient Roman actually thought of it that way, or if there was like, no, I'm just like using the adjective-y version of that verb because I'm describing something. Because taught or learned, that involves having taught something or having learned something. But in that context where it's like an adjective, it would be showing up as an adjective. It's this word that's originally coming from an action word to teach, but it's functioning here as a description. Any questions, comments, critiques? I'm gonna do a redo of this tomorrow, where I try to reteach participles in a better way. Does anybody have any tips to make these more colorful? Maybe I just teach the first two on one day, and then the next day I teach the future tense ones. Huh. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. This is the vocab for this chapter. We get arx, arcus for citadel, third to clinch, dux, ducus for leader. So now we have the verb duco, ducera to lead, but we also have this noun version of it. Equus, equi, horse, hosta, spear. Insula is island. What's a word we get from insula, anyone? Yeah, insulate, which is kind of like, it's almost a stretch if you think about something being insulated. That's not usually, we don't think of an island as being insulated from like a continent by water. I guess that's kind of the way to think of it. Litus littoris is shore. You study marine biology, littoral means like having to do with the coast. Miles, militus is soldier. That's not miles. Okay, it's like military. Orator can literally be translated as orator. Sacerdos is priest with an S. These are weird. Aliquis is going to be like someone or somebody, whereas aliquid is going to be something more like not describing a person. Quisquis and quidquid, those are fun words. Whoever, whatever. So quisquis will be whoever. Quidquid is whatever. Magnanimous is a little more than just magnus. It's more like great-hearted or brave instead of just like great. Umquam is ever. So we have numquam is never. Umquam is ever. And then we get a bunch of verbs. Educo is kind of just a different version of duco ducera. If duco ducera is to lead, educo is more to like figuratively lead, aka like to raise or teach. Gaudeo is to rejoice. I guess there's related words. I can't think of them. Ostindo is to show. I don't know what the related words are there. Peto petra to seek or aim. That one's hard to remember. Primo is easy to press. These is easy if you're looking at the third and fourth. Primo is like suppress. Oppress would probably be fine, but suppress apparently is a little better. And verto is to turn. Are related? Yeah. No, yeah, I flip-flop on if I'm supposed to include the related words. But this way, it's like I can actually ask people what the related words are instead of like they're just on the board, so I can't ask that question. Okay, let's look at some examples of these. Once you see them in practice, you realize participles really aren't that hard. Okay, the way I'm talking about, the way the book talks about it, it wants you to think these are like really intense, but they're not that bad. So vive is here from vivo, vivere, to live. What tense is that, anyone out loud? It's second person. So it's something about you living. But it's you vive. You vive. Huh? What tense this be, y'all? Y'all want sleepy mode. We stopped talking about masks and indoor masking, and then y'all want sleep mode. That's cool. I'm glad to make it in my third class. I didn't think I was going to make it to that second class. I'm telling kids about Theseus and the Minotaur today, and it's like, ugh. It's future tense because that E. That E makes it future tense. So it's like you will live. You will live. That's the verb. And then this is from this brand new verb that we're just finding out is a word we have. It's oppresso, to suppress. And then like you might not even, I don't know what you would think when you look at this, but this is a new verb. So it's like, I can't really role play for you guys right now if you like didn't know this was a word. But now it's one of our vocab words. You see it here. This inning does not look very verby. So you might already be thinking, okay, is that coming from the fourth principal part or something? Because I don't think we have any verbs that end in US. We have a lot of verbs that end in S, but maybe not US. That almost makes it look like an adjective or a noun or something. But this is not a perfect passive verb either, because I don't see like soon. It's not like oppress assume, which would be like I was suppressed or I have been suppressed. It's not that weirdly. We already had a verb. So it's like you will live, and it turns out it is a perfect passive. They just took the fourth principal part. They made it agree, I guess, that this you is a dude because they're using a masculine ending. So you will live having been suppressed. We don't need the having been part, but that's what it technically is. You will live suppressed. Then we just have, I don't know if y'all know, praesidium means guard. So what would this be? We just have my guards floating there. You will live suppressed, comma, my guards. Lucy might have an idea. What's that, Lily?
suppress my card.
Good idea, but not too suppressed. That would almost be like if it's an infinitive. Not an infinitive. Lucy? Suppressed by my guards. Yeah. Because even though it's not a perfect passive verb, it is still passive. Confusing. It's a perfect passive participle. So that means that we could still expect this, which is an ablative of, I guess here it's means. Guards is like, those are people, so I almost think of that as ablative of agent. But they didn't include the ob, the AB. So I guess this is technically ablative of means. But yeah, you will live having been, again, fully we can drop that part. But like that's what, when you see a perfect passive participle, sometimes it helps to think of it as having been verb. And then from there you can like remove the having been. Because it is technically kind of like superfluous. You don't really need it. It probably makes it sound a little more common. So just you will live suppressed by my ablative of me. So yeah, that's like a couple of weird things happening here. But if you just think of this as an adjective, like that's what you would get. You will live suppressed. And then this is the only part that's actually hard. So the part that's actually hard here is not the participle part. It's just the fact that passive verbs sometimes have these ablatives still. And we have to use add with or by ourselves. So something about like those men, if that's just nominative, those men, however. And then it looks like the rest of the sentence, they were seeking, this is a new word, petro seek, like a greeting or help. Salus, salutis can be help or a greeting. Weird. But I think this is a greeting. Those men, however, were seeking a greeting. And what were these men doing? Maybe that's what this middle part is. Tindera is this new word that needs to stretch, which Luke is doing actually. And then so if the last participle is a perfect passive one, coming straight from the fourth principal part, I didn't even include the fourth principal part of this verb here, so it must not be perfect passive. Can anybody else already identify it? A handful of you guys are at advantage because you actually maybe kept up with this back in like August when we started the year with chapter 23. So I'm seeing, I know this comes from Tindera, and because, basically just because I see the NT in the ending here, that is what makes me think it is present active. Again, present active and perfect passive are the two really common ones. Future ones are the ones that are really rare. So it's just gonna be like the verbing form of this verb that needs to stretch. So it's those men, however, stretching, that's what they're doing. These men are stretching their right hand. So they're describing them giving a salute or something. Those men, however, stretching their right hands were seeking greeting. So stretching sounds kind of like a verb. Here, though, it's a participle because it's like functioning like an adjective. And it gets the ES, that must be a third declension nominative plural, to agree with those men, because those men is nominative plural. And it has the NT in there because it's present active. Any questions, comments, critiques? Anybody else want to share something they did over the break? Did anybody beat any video games over the break? No? Ridiculous. Do y'all have any friends who like they game, they go online, they play like Overwatch, but they don't like really beat single player games? Anybody?
Yeah, Keith. Yeah.
I know some people who like they just like never finished a single player game in their life. And I have trouble respecting those people. But that's also why I had to quit Overwatch, because like if I had stayed addicted to Overwatch forever, I never would have beat another single player game ever again.
He gets like killed by level 2s and stuff. Like he's at 63.
So good. So good. I played Overwatch at my friend's house over the break. I got back on Lucio. Probably been like 3 years. But it's like riding a bike. You just don't forget it. Tantalus. This is the word. I don't think we have this word, but satire. So if this verb means to thirst and it's present active, what is Tantalus doing? So Tantalus, who happens to be, it's not perfect passive. It's not that he himself is thirsted. It's that he's thirsting. Tantalus thirsting a river. That sounds weird. Thirsting a river. He's thirsting the river. Y'all know Tantalus. He's the dude who's trapped in the part of the underworld because he fed his brother, his nephew. He chopped up his nephew and fed it to his brother. And his brother didn't know that he was eating his kid.
Run that by me.
That's the best I can do in terms of running that by you. Because it's one of the more messed up ones. But his punishment is to be in the underworld, and every time he reaches down to get water, because he's like in a stream, the water drains, and every time he reaches up to get grapes, the grapes like pull back away from him. So Tantalus, present active, sitting or thirsting the river, from his mouth. Oh, thirsting too. There is an actual verb here. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's ignore Scythian. Tantalus was desiring to touch the river. Thirsting. And he's also thirsting. How about, instead of saying thirsting, Tantalus, what sounds better than thirsting, Tantalus? Anyone? Just make it like a normal adjective, can we? Yeah, or what did you say, Kate? Thirsted. No, because thirsted starts to get a little more perfect passive. So we can just say thirsty. I don't advise to do that. Don't do that normally. This is just a weird sentence. Thirsty Tantalus was desiring to touch the river. Oh, the river was Fugentia, present active. Anyone was Fugio? Bailey, do you know Fugio Fugera? To like a fugitive is always to flee. So it's the river fleeing his mouth. All right, guys. Try not to pass out halfway through class next time.